Commander Kim Tae-ho gripped the metal railing of the bridge as another explosion rocked the battleship Defiance. Red warning lights bathed everything in an eerie glow, while alarms screamed throughout the massive vessel. The holographic display in front of him showed the unthinkable, hundreds of alien warships emerging from hyperspace jumps all across human territory. "This can't be happening," he whispered, watching the Hegemony Council's broadcast for the third time. The alien leaders sat in their crystalline chamber, their various forms united in condemnation. The reptilian Vorthak High Chancellor spoke with forked tongue, his words dripping with manufactured outrage. "The human species has committed the ultimate crime," the Chancellor hissed. "They have wiped out the peaceful Zephyrian civilization without mercy or reason. We have evidence of their war crimes." The footage that followed made Tae-ho's blood run cold. Human battleships, clearly marked with Earth's insignia, fired devastating plasma cannons into defenseless Zephyrian cities. Families of the blue-skinned aliens ran screaming as their crystal homes shattered. Children reached for parents who would never hold them again. "Sir, incoming transmission from Kepler Station." Lieutenant Park So-young's fingers flew across her control panel, her usually calm demeanor cracking under pressure. "They're requesting immediate evacuation support." The main screen shifted to show Captain Han Byung-soo of Kepler Station, his face streaked with sweat and smoke. Behind him, sparks flew from damaged consoles, while his crew worked frantically to repair critical systems. "Commander Tae-ho, we've got 12 Hegemony dreadnoughts closing in fast," Han reported, his voice cutting in and out through the interference. "These aren't patrol ships. They're full battle cruisers with enough firepower to crack a moon. They're not responding to any of our surrender signals." "Have you tried explaining that we had nothing to do with the Zephyrian situation?" Tae-ho asked, already knowing the answer. "Sir, they're not listening. They're treating this like an extermination mission." The transmission flickered as another massive explosion shook Kepler Station. "They want us all dead." The bridge doors burst open with a hydraulic hiss, and Captain Lee Jun-woo stumbled in, his uniform torn and blackened from fighting fires in the engine compartments. His left arm hung at an odd angle, clearly injured from the emergency repairs. "Commander, I've got bad news," Jun-woo gasped, leaning against a support beam. "New Busan colony just went silent. Before we lost contact, they reported seeing hegemony ships in formation, the kind they use for planetary bombardment." Tae-ho felt his heart sink. New Busan housed over 2 million civilians, including thousands of families with young children. "What about the defense platforms, destroyed in the first wave? They didn't even have time to raise shields." Jun-woo wiped blood from a cut on his forehead. "Seoul Station is reporting similar attacks. The Vorthak are using their bioships, those living vessels that can regenerate damage faster than we can inflict it." The tactical display updated with horrifying speed. Red markers indicated lost colonies, yellow showed settlements under attack, and green represented the few remaining safe zones. The green was disappearing fast. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures," So-young announced, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's the Nexari Collective. Their cube ships are joining the assault on Terra Nova." Tae-ho had fought the Nexari before. Their technology was decades ahead of human capabilities, with ships that could phase in and out of normal space. Their robotic drones moved like a swarm, coordinating attacks with mechanical precision that left no room for error. "And the Zelthari?" he asked, hoping at least one of the major species would remain neutral. "Their crystal warships are bombarding the mining colonies in the Outer Rim," Jun-woo reported grimly. "They're using those sound weapons that can shatter hull plating from the inside out." The communication panel lit up with incoming distress calls from across human space. Desperate voices pleaded for help that wasn't coming. Colonial defense forces, designed to handle pirates and smugglers, found themselves facing the combined military might of 12 advanced alien civilizations. "Commander, look at this," So-young said, pulling up the hegemony footage again. "I've been analyzing the attack patterns shown in their evidence. These plasma signatures don't match any weapons in our fleet registry." Tae-ho studied the data, streams flowing across the screen. The more he watched, the more something felt wrong. The human ships in the footage moved differently, fired weapons that Earth had never developed, and used tactics that no human commander would employ. "Sir, another colony is going dark," Junwoo announced. "That's 15 settlements in the past hour." Outside the reinforced viewports, space itself seemed to burn as hegemony forces continued their systematic advance. Bioships pulsed with organic energy. Crystal vessels hummed with harmonious death songs, and robotic cubes calculated the most efficient methods of human extinction. The lie had been perfect, complete with fabricated evidence that convinced an entire galaxy. Now humanity faced annihilation for crimes they never committed, while their real enemies watched from the shadows. Captain Choi Min-soo pressed his body against the cold metal wall of his fighter cockpit as another Vorthak bioship swept past, its living hull pulsing with bioluminescent veins. 2 weeks of constant running and hiding had taken their toll on his squadron. What started as 37 ships was now down to 12 battered hulks held together by emergency patches and desperate prayers. "Ghost Leader, we've got 3 Nexari. Cubes moving through Sector 7, crackled the voice of Lieutenant Kim Da-yoon through the static-filled comm. Her fighter, the Soul's Revenge, had lost half its armor plating in yesterday's ambush near the gas giant's rings. Min-soo adjusted his position behind a massive asteroid, using its bulk to hide from the enemy sensors. The rock was twice the size of a city block, scarred with mining equipment from the old days when New Sol Colony was just a dream. Now it served as cover for humanity's desperate last stand. "Copy that, Ghost 2. Maintain radio silence until they pass." He watched, through his cracked viewport, as the 3 geometric alien vessels moved in perfect formation. Each cube was the size of a football stadium, their surfaces crawling with millions of tiny robotic drones that could detach and swarm enemy ships like metallic locusts. Sergeant Han Yu-jin floated in the gunner position of the assault shuttle, Incheon's pride. His magnetic boots clamped to the deck as he studied enemy movement patterns through the targeting scope. The big man had been a construction worker before the war, building the very colonies they were now fighting to protect. "Captain, I've been watching these alien bastards for days now," Yu-jin whispered into his comm, careful to keep his voice low. "They fight like my old factory robots back home. Same routines, same responses to every situation." Min-soo frowned, processing this information. "Explain that, Sergeant." "Watch the Vorthak bioships. Every time we fire a missile salvo, they always dodge left first, then spiral right, every single time. And those crystal ships from the Zelthari, they always cluster in groups of 5 and rotate their formation clockwise when under attack." Through his scope, Yu-jin tracked a formation of enemy fighters sweeping the asteroid field. Even the Nexari cubes follow patterns. When they encounter resistance, Cube 1 advances, Cube 2 flanks left, Cube 3 provides support fire. They never deviate from the program. Min-soo felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. If they're predictable, we can exploit that. Ghost Squadron. New tactics. We're going to test the Sergeant's theory. Meanwhile, deep in the abandoned research station orbiting the dead world of Kepler 442b, Dr. Yoon Ji-hai worked frantically in the cramped laboratory of the research vessel Discovery. The ship had been her home for 3 years while she studied ancient alien civilizations. Now it was her prison as hegemony forces closed in on her position. Her fingers flew across the holographic interface, translating symbols that were older than human civilization. The Zephyrian ruins she had discovered on the barren moon of Zerion 7 told a story that made her blood run cold. "This can't be right," she muttered, cross-referencing the dating analysis for the 100th time. The quantum decay patterns were unmistakable. These ruins were at least 3,000 years old, possibly older. The writing spoke of a great catastrophe, of sky fire that fell from the stars and turned their beautiful world into ash. Ji-hai pulled up the hegemony's evidence files, studying the footage of the supposed human attack on Zephyrian colonies. According to the Alien Council, this genocide had happened only 5 years ago, but her archaeological data proved the Zephyrians had been extinct for millennia. "Someone's lying," she whispered to herself, her heart racing with the implications. The question is who and why. The ship's proximity alarm suddenly screamed to life. Through the laboratory's small porthole, Jihai saw the sleek forms of hegemony interceptors dropping out of hyperspace. Their hulls gleamed like liquid mercury, and she could see the weapon, pods extending like the fangs of some cosmic predator. "Computer, prepare emergency data burst," she commanded, her hands shaking as she compiled her findings. "Priority alpha transmission to any human vessel in range." The ship shuddered as the first enemy plasma bolt struck the hull. Emergency lighting bathed the laboratory in red as power systems began failing one by one. Jihai could hear the sound of metal tearing as the enemy ships used tractor beams to pull apart her vessel's outer armor. "Transmission ready," the computer announced in its calm, artificial voice. "Send it now," Jihai shouted, as sparks erupted from the communication array above her head. The acrid smell of burning electronics filled the air as she dove under a workbench for cover. The data packet launched just as a massive explosion rocked the ship. The communication array exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal, but her message was already racing through space at faster-than-light speeds. Back in the asteroid field, Minsu was putting Yujin's theory to the test. His squadron had just engaged a patrol of Vorthak bioships, using new unpredictable tactics, random attack patterns, chaotic flight paths, and weapons fired at irregular intervals. The results were remarkable. The alien ships, programmed to respond to standard military tactics, found themselves confused and vulnerable. Minsu's fighters danced around them like wasps attacking giants, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before the bioships could adapt. "It's working," Yujin laughed over the comm as his gunship's cannons tore through the hull of an enemy vessel. "They don't know how to handle chaos." Major Song Woo-jin pressed his body flat against the cold metal of the ventilation shaft, feeling every vibration as alien footsteps echoed through the corridors below. The Hegemony Communication Hub was a fortress of twisted architecture, built by a dozen different species, with no regard for human comfort or understanding. Crystalline walls pulsed with bioluminescent data streams, while robotic sentries glided silently through halls that curved in impossible directions. "Ghost. Actual. We're 20 meters from the central core," he whispered into his throat mic, his voice barely audible even to himself. Behind him, 5 of humanity's best special operations soldiers crawled through the narrow shaft, their black combat suits designed to absorb both light and sensor scans. Tech specialist Kang Min-jung was right behind him, her compact frame allowing her to move through spaces that would challenge larger soldiers. Her backpack carried enough electronic warfare equipment to hack into systems that most humans couldn't even comprehend. She had volunteered for this suicide mission after receiving Dr. Yoon's fragmentary transmission 3 days ago. "Major, I'm reading massive data flows directly below us," Min-jung reported. Consulting the alien scanner she had jury-rigged from captured Nexari technology. "This is definitely the main information hub for their entire propaganda network." Sergeant Park Hyun-woo, bringing up the rear of their infiltration team, kept watch through a fiber-optic scope that snaked back toward their entry point. The grizzled veteran had fought in the colony wars before this galactic nightmare began, and his experience showed in every careful movement. "Contact," he hissed suddenly. "2 Vorthak guards approaching our entry shaft. They're carrying those bioweapons. That fire-living ammunition." Woo-jin held up his fist, signaling for complete silence. Through the ventilation grate below, he could see into the central command chamber. Dozens of alien technicians worked at control stations that defied human understanding. Floating holographic displays showed real-time updates from the warfront, with red markers indicating successful attacks on human colonies. What made his blood boil was the casual nature of it all. These aliens were orchestrating genocide while discussing it like a routine business operation. A insectoid Zelthari commander clicked its mandibles in what might have been laughter as it watched footage of human children fleeing from burning cities. "Min-jung, can you access their systems from here?" Woo-jin asked, studying the complex network of data conduits that ran through the walls like alien arteries. "Give me 5 minutes to interface with their quantum networks," she replied, already. Unpacking her equipment, her fingers moved with practiced precision as she connected human technology to alien systems, bridging the gap between 2 entirely different approaches to information processing. The first breakthrough came faster than expected. Minjung's eyes widened as data flooded across her portable display. "Major, you need to see this. The Zephyrian genocide footage. It's all fake, every single frame." Wu Jin crawled closer, peering at the evidence that could change everything. The display showed layer upon layer of digital manipulation, computer-generated environments, holographic ships with human markings, and most damning of all, actors dressed as Zephyrian civilians. These dead Zephyrians are actually Altarian performers. Minjung continued, her voice tight with disbelief. "The blue skin, the crystalline features, it's all makeup and prosthetics, and look at this timestamp data." The metadata revealed the truth that Dr. Yoon had died to uncover. The supposed genocide footage had been created in Hegemony Studios over the past 6 months, using advanced holographic technology to craft the perfect lie. "But why?" whispered Private Lee Seung-ho, the team's youngest member. "Why go to all this trouble to frame humanity?" The answer came as Minjung dove deeper into the classified files, resource surveys, territorial expansion plans, and most revealing of all, internal communications between the 12 hegemony species about the human problem. "They're afraid of us," Wu Jin realized, reading over her shoulder. "Human technology is advancing too fast. Our adaptation rate, our innovation, it threatens their established order." The files painted a picture of a galactic civilization that had remained static for thousands of years, with each species locked into predetermined roles. The reptilian Vortak provided military might, the crystalline Zelthari controlled energy production, the robotic Nexari handled manufacturing. It was a perfect system of mutual dependence that kept everyone in their place. Then humanity arrived, refusing to fit into any category. Human scientists made breakthrough discoveries that should have taken centuries. Human engineers built ships that outperformed vessels designed by species with millennia of experience. Human diplomats formed alliances that crossed traditional species boundaries. "We were disrupting their entire power structure," Minjung said, accessing files that detailed the hegemony's growing concern about human influence. "So they decided to eliminate us before we could upset their carefully balanced empire." The smoking gun came in the form of internal communications from the Vorthak High Chancellor himself. "The human infestation must be contained before it spreads further. Their chaotic nature and unpredictable development make them unsuitable for integration into proper galactic society." "Download everything," Wu Jin ordered, watching as security alerts began flashing on nearby screens. "We need proof that can't be dismissed or ignored." Minjung's fingers flew across her interface as terabytes of classified information flowed into her storage devices. Evidence of the fabricated genocide, plans for human extermination, and most importantly, the real history of what happened to the Zephyrians. "Major, the original Zephyrian extinction was caused by the hegemony 3,000 years ago," she reported. "They needed a scapegoat species to justify their first major expansion. Sound familiar?" Suddenly, every alarm in the facility began shrieking. Red emergency lights bathed the command center as automated voices announced security breaches in a dozen alien languages. Through the ventilation grate, Wu Jin could see hegemony soldiers rushing toward their position. "Time to go," he announced, but Minjung held up one finger. 30 more seconds. I'm accessing their real-time communication network. If I can upload this evidence to their own broadcast system." "Negative, we extract now," Wu Jin commanded, but it was too late. Plasma bolts began melting through the ventilation shaft as enemy forces pinpointed their location. Minjung smiled grimly as her upload completed. "Done. Every hegemony communication relay in this sector just received our evidence package. Even if we don't make it out, the truth is spreading." Admiral Lim Do-hyun watched the tactical display with satisfaction as red indicators across the galaxy began shifting colors. The evidence that Major Song's team had sacrificed everything to obtain was spreading through the hegemony's own communication networks faster than their leaders could contain it. What had started as humanity's darkest hour was rapidly becoming their moment of vindication. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Altarian High Command," announced Commander Bae Yunji, her voice carrying a note of barely contained excitement. "The bridge of the dreadnought Incheon's Pride hummed with renewed energy as crew members realized they were no longer fighting alone against impossible odds. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the graceful form of Admiral Zara Lynn, her translucent blue skin shimmering with patterns that indicated deep shame among her people. The Altarians had been among the first to join the hegemony's crusade against humanity, their natural empathy making them especially susceptible to the fabricated genocide footage. "Admiral Lim," she began, her melodic voice heavy with regret, "my species owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. We believed the lies, acted on false evidence, and contributed to the destruction of innocent lives. We formally request permission to join your forces and help undo the damage we have caused." Du-hyun nodded solemnly. "Your people were deceived, Admiral Zara Lynn. The real enemy is those who crafted the deception. Welcome to the fight for truth." As the transmission ended, Yunji reported more developments. "Sir, the Carillion Collective has also withdrawn their bioships from the front lines. Their living vessels are refusing to attack human targets now that they understand the truth. Apparently, the creatures that power their ships can sense deception. At a molecular level. And the Nexari?" Do-hyun asked, knowing that the robotic collective would be the hardest to convince. "Their central processing core is still analyzing the evidence. They're requesting 47 hours and 32 minutes to verify the authenticity of our data through quantum forensic analysis." Yunji allowed herself a small smile. "But 3 of their cube fleets have already ceased offensive operations pending the investigation results." Do-hyun moved to the central command console, his weathered hands dancing across controls that had been designed by the finest human engineers. "Then it's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. Commander Yunji, transmit authorization. Code Sunrise Alpha to all hidden facilities." Across human space, installations that had been carefully camouflaged for decades suddenly came to life. On the dark side of Earth's moon, massive blast doors opened to reveal shipyards that had been secretly constructing vessels using technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The ships that emerged defied conventional design, their hulls incorporating discoveries made from studying captured alien technology and advancing them beyond what their original creators thought possible. The Soul's Vengeance, flagship of humanity's new fleet, measured 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was composed of adaptive nanomaterials that could reconfigure themselves for optimal performance in any combat situation. Quantum field generators allowed it to phase partially out of normal space, making it nearly impossible to target. With conventional weapons, Captain Oh Sung-min commanded the stealth destroyer Ghost of Busan, as it materialized directly behind a formation of Vorthak bioships that were bombarding the civilian station at Kepler 7. The enemy vessels, massive, organic constructs that pulsed with bioluminescent veins, had no idea death was approaching from their blind spot. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Nam Ji-soo from the weapons station. "Quantum cannons are charged and ready." "Fire," Oh commanded quietly. The quantum cannons fired beams of pure energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Unlike conventional weapons that could be absorbed or deflected by advanced shielding, quantum fire struck targets on a subatomic level. The lead bioship simply ceased to exist, its living hull disintegrating into component atoms before its neural network could even register the attack. The remaining Vorthak vessels tried to scatter, but they were fighting technology that operated beyond their understanding. The Ghost of Busan phased in and out of visibility, striking from impossible angles before vanishing again. Within minutes, the entire enemy formation had been eliminated without landing a single shot in return. Similar scenes played out across the war zone as humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself. The Incheon's Lightning, a carrier vessel that looked like a giant metal flower, deployed swarms of fighters that moved like living things. Each small craft was piloted by an AI that had been trained on human tactical creativity, making them unpredictable and devastating in combat. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different hegemony battle groups," Yunji reported, her voice filled with wonder. "They're requesting immediate ceasefire and safe passage to neutral space." Do-hyun studied the strategic display as red enemy markers winked out across multiple star systems. The war that had seemed hopeless just hours before was rapidly turning into a rout. But he knew this was only the beginning. "Signal the fleet," he commanded. "Phase 2 of Operation Sunrise is now in effect. We're taking this fight to the real enemy, the Hegemony Council itself." The massive human fleet began moving toward the galactic core, where the Council's leadership had hidden themselves behind layers of defensive stations and automated weapon platforms. They had started this war with lies and deception. Now they would face the consequences of awakening humanity's true potential. Captain Park Min-ki, commanding the experimental battleship Daegu's Fury, watched as his ship's reality distortion field-bent space around them, allowing faster-than-light travel without the need for hyperspace jumps. They were rewriting the rules of galactic warfare with every engagement. The massive battle above Dominion Prime lit up the darkness of space like a deadly fireworks show. Thousands of ships from dozens of different species clashed in the final fight that would decide the fate of the entire galaxy. Human vessels, sleek and silver, danced between the bulky hegemony warships that had terrorized peaceful worlds for centuries. Fleet Admiral Kim Hae-won stood on the bridge of Seoul's Vengeance, watching the chaos unfold on the holographic display. Her ship shook as enemy plasma cannons fired, but the advanced human shields held strong. Around her, the crew worked with clockwork precision, their fingers flying over control panels as they coordinated attacks with allied fleets. "Target their command ship," Kim ordered, pointing at a massive black vessel shaped like a spider. "If we can take out their communications hub, the rest of their fleet will fall apart." The human fighters, small but incredibly fast, zipped between the enemy formations like angry hornets. Their pilots had trained for this moment their entire lives. They dodged massive laser blasts that could vaporize an entire city, weaving through debris fields of destroyed ships while firing their own weapons with deadly accuracy. Captain Lee Min-ho piloted his fighter through a gap in the enemy defenses, his heart pounding as he lined up the perfect shot. Behind him, his wingman Park Sung-jin covered his approach, shooting down enemy drones that tried to intercept them. The two had been best friends since flight school, and now they fought together in the most important battle in human history. "I've got a lock on their shield generator," Min-ho called over the radio. His targeting computer beeped as it found the weak spot in the enemy's defenses. Going in for the kill shot. The hegemony ships were massive floating fortresses, bristling with weapons and covered in thick armor plating. But humanity had learned their weaknesses during months of careful study. Every species the hegemony had conquered had been forced to build these ships, and some of those enslaved engineers had secretly passed along vital information to the human resistance. Explosions bloomed across the spider-shaped command ship as human torpedoes found their mark. The vessel's shields flickered and died, exposing its hull to direct attack. Within minutes, smaller human ships swarmed over it like ants on a dropped piece of candy, their cutting beams slicing through the armor. But the real victory wasn't happening in space. Down on the surface of Dominion Prime, human special forces had infiltrated the hegemony's main communication center. Sergeant Cho Byung-ho and his team had fought their way through mechanical guards and alien security systems to reach the broadcasting station that controlled information across the galaxy. "We're in," Cho whispered into his comm unit as his team secured the facility. Around him, strange alien technology hummed and pulsed with otherworldly energy. Beginning transmission of the evidence files now. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in shock as the truth finally came to light. The hegemony had fabricated the entire story about humanity being a threat. Secret recordings showed council members laughing as they planned to destroy human colonies and steal their technology. Documents revealed how they had manipulated other species into joining their war through lies and threats. On the flagship, Communications Officer Jung So-ra's eyes widened as messages flooded in from across the battlefield. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different species. They're all asking for immediate ceasefire." Kim nodded grimly. She had expected this. Once the truth came out, the hegemony's alliance would crumble like a house of cards. Most of the alien species had only joined the war because they believed humanity was dangerous. Now they knew they had been deceived. The massive hegemony dreadnoughts began powering down their weapons one by one. Their crews, mostly enslaved beings from conquered worlds, were probably celebrating their freedom at this very moment. Some of the enemy ships even turned their guns on their former hegemony commanders, settling old scores that had been brewing for decades. Colonel Nam Jae-wook watched from his position aboard a human cruiser as delegation ships approached under white flags of truce. These weren't the arrogant council members who had started this war. These were representatives of the species who had been forced to fight, beings who just wanted to go home to their families and rebuild their shattered worlds. The colonel had lost many friends in this war. His younger brother had died defending Earth's orbital stations. His childhood friend had been killed in the first battle of the Centauri system, but looking at the approaching peace delegates, he felt hope instead of hatred. In the distance, Dominion Prime burned. The hegemony's capital, world, was being evacuated as revolutionary forces took control of government buildings. Centuries of oppression were finally coming to an end, not through conquest, but through the simple power of truth. As the last enemy weapons powered down and the galaxy's largest space battle came to its end, humanity had won something more valuable than territory or resources. They had won the respect of an entire galaxy and the chance to build something better from the ashes of the old order.